if you could say anything about starting a bowing practice at home.
Well, people who take refuge with Triple Jewel, we decided, Heng Shi and I and Heng Lu and all of us monks and stuff decided, and the nuns too, decided that instead of, we won't take disciples ourselves because we're nowhere close enough to be a teacher. So we set up a thing where we represent the master during a refuge ceremony, and because we represent him, we follow his rules, how he led his disciples take refuge. Now, he used to do whole groups, sometimes even thousands of people at once when we went to Taiwan. But then he changed later on. He said, from now on, people who want to take refuge with me have to do a little work. They can't just take refuge and walk around with their little refuge book saying, I'm a Shifu disciple. That ain't going to do it. He says, you got to at least bow to 10,000 Buddhas sometime in your lifetime. You don't have to do it tomorrow, but you got to do it. You got to make a sincere effort to bow to 10,000 Buddhas. You can set a time every day and bow every day. That's one way to do it. You can just do it in big blocks if you want. Just keep track of what you're doing. And that's one of his main requirements, which no other teachers do that. I mean, that was Shifu's thing completely. So we keep that model going. So people take refuge should practice. And so a lot of people will do that. They're very busy during the day, but when they come home or before they go to work, they'll set aside a certain amount of time and say, okay, I'll just bow Buddha here and keep track of it. Some people just go to Wamfachung during the 10,000 Buddha repentance and say, I'll just do it there. I'll do it all at once. 28 days, I'm done. You know. But other people just really, what happens is people really like the practice. And over time, they just keep doing it no matter whether they get 10,000 or a million. They'll just keep bowing. So, but I just told you that story because that's one of Shifu's instructions, and it really works pretty good. People get kind of, especially new people, they get freaked out. 10,000, oh God, I can't do that. But I said, no, you don't have to do it all at once. So maybe that's, you can start working on. Just set a time of the day where it's best for you, either in the morning or in the evening, or both. If you're really busy and you're working, say, okay, I'll get up a little early, and then I'll spend, anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour or an hour bowing, or something like that, whatever time slot you can fit in there. Or you can say, well, when I get off of work, I'll do it. Or maybe you'll do it both. You just set a pattern. It's sort of like you're going to the gym every day. Just get in the habit of doing it. And then it'll just become part of you.
And what am I doing with my mind?
I'm trying to think of the book that Shifu talks exactly about this point. When you're bowing, there's all these different levels of bowing. Let's put it that way. Basically, if you're really bowing Buddha correctly, there's nothing in your mind but just Amitabha. If let's say you're bowing Amitabha, or if you're bowing to, let's say you're just doing 10,000 different Buddhas, like we do 10,000 Buddha repentance, we recite a different Buddha each time. A lot of people just recite Amitabha and bow. Let's just use that as an example. And that just becomes, there's only Amitabha. That's all your mind has when you're bowing. It's a form of Chan. Shiva has always told us, actually there's no 5 schools of Buddhism. There's just one. When the Buddha was in the world, there was no Pure Land school and Chan school. It didn't exist. They were made by people's attachments. Some people are attached to bowing, other people are attached to sitting, other people are attached to learning and studying. So they came up with these different schools to accommodate their proclivities. So mine is, I'm attached to Chan, but I don't care. I do, to me, because Chifu's taught me over the years that they're all intertwined. When you're bowing, just that is Chan. When you're sitting, just that is Pure Land. So you're basically trying to still your mind, but what you're really trying to do is bring your mind to the present when you're bowing. just like when you're sitting. Same thing. You want to bring your mind to the present moment. Be here now. You ever heard that phrase? Be here now, please. Don't be off somewhere else. That's what you're trying to accomplish when you bow. And then once you start getting here now, when you start really, you say, okay, I'm just going to be here now for this 10 minutes that I bow. Okay, I can sacrifice that much time. I offer that up to all living beings. I'm going to really focus on being here now. I'll indulge in some false thinking later, but right now, I'm going to be here now. So you do that. And then recite the name. Now, what's cool about bowing and you're reciting, especially if you're doing multiple Buddhas, you have to pay attention to which one you're bowing to. That keeps you a little busy. At least your mind ain't sitting there in Chan trying to be still. It's doing something. It's working on something. You know, you have a Buddha to pay attention to. And so that's another good thing about it. Or even if you're just reciting, like say, Amitabha's name, at least you're reciting that name with your mind and even your mouth. You can also do it. You can do it vocally if you wish. But most people bow silently. But some people like to recite it out loud and bow. You know, if they're privacy of their own home, they do that. Both are okay. But that's your initial practice. Later, when you really start getting accomplishment, real accomplishment, you get this light going on inside you, and you're just nothing. There's nothing in your mind but the Buddha that you're reciting. You just have this light. You become everywhere. Everything everywhere is Amitabha, or whatever Buddha you're bowing to. That's an inconceivable state of which I cannot explain to you because I have yet to achieve it. But that's a very high state of bowing. So you have no self at that point. There's no you anymore. There's no me. There's no I. It's all disappeared and disintegrated. It's like those poems that Heng Lai was doing the other night with Shu Lao when he awoken. It's the same kind of thing. It's a Buddha bowing samadhi. You've entered it. You've achieved the way through bowing Buddha. All viable. These are all viable Dharma doors. But to begin with, you just want to bring yourself to the present at first. You're not going to have all that popping off unless your roots are incredible. So you're going to just start bowing and just try to bring yourself to the present and put all this other junk that's going on in your life aside for whatever minutes you can pull it off. When you first start, you might be able to get away with maybe 5 minutes or so, or maybe 1 minute, I don't know. But later you might get good at it, you know, as you do it. You get into the rhythm of it and you just say, okay, this is our time, me and the Buddha. At the end of this time, I can go off and do whatever I need to do and worry about what I need to worry about. But for this point, this is our pure place. I don't want to be indulging in a lot of false thinking. I just want to focus on the Buddha's name and bow. So you might want to try with a small block of time at first. Don't try to push yourself into the deep end of the pool. Don't say, okay, I'm going to bow for 5 hours and then see how I do. No, wait, whoa. You might want to try something you can actually chew. You know, if you've never bowed before, hey, just do 5 or 10 minutes. Then extend it. You know, I can do that. And the next day, say, well, maybe I'll kick that up another 5, 10 minutes. You know, whatever you can seriously be able to do. And then when you find yourself lost in thought, when you're bowing, you just stop. Say, okay, this is our special time. I'm going to set that aside for now. I need to focus on the present. I need to focus on the Buddha. I'm bowing.
Once you start counting the 10,000 bows, and you actually start counting them, can you count every single bow that you do during the day, or can you only count the bows in the special bowing time?
No, you just keep track of how many times you bow to the Buddha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all bows to the Buddha count.
Yeah. If you want to really get, you know, some people say, well, I'm going to go visit the temple. I got to bow. When I go to the Buddha hall, I'm going to bow to the Buddha. Well, I'm going to count those two. Because I don't want to get through this 10,000, so I'm going to count. If you want. And the Buddha's going, well, this guy's a real cheapskate. Look at him. What you're really doing is you're not bowing to some deity. You're bowing to your true nature. That's what you're really doing. Because you forget, you have the Buddha nature. You have a Buddha inside you. That's who you're really bowing to. You're bowing to get all the obstructions out of the way so you can see that Buddha. So you can realize that Buddha. So you can say, in a sense, you're bowing to yourself. Only you're bowing to your true self, not your false self. But you're also bowing to all Buddhas throughout the period. Because when you become a Buddha or up to close to being one, like a Guanyin or an Manjushri, it's like this. It's like interpenetrating. You're just all like a gigantic symphony. You all work in harmony as one. There's no them and me, others. You don't have a self. It's gone. I mean, literally shattered. You just don't. You could say the word I, and it has no meaning to you. When you say I or me, you're thinking, I'm talking about myself. Me, myself, and I. the three wonderful persons. No, they don't exist. When you shatter that, as Amitabha used to say, that is the Pure Land.
Of all the different practices, different Dharma doors there are, what do you find is particularly rewarding about bowing? Versus, say, many people are interested in meditation these days. Why would you?
I'm attached. I was not attached at all to bowing when I first came to study with the master back in 1970, 71 and stuff. I just wanted to do Chan, and Shifu instructed me over time that you don't want to be attached to any one practice. And Shifu taught all of them. He taught all 5 schools. So he taught us the Pure Land school and the bowing school. He says, just that is Chan. And you don't want to be attached to Chan. He says, very few people can do Chan correctly anyway. Very, very few. Maybe 1 in 100 can actually do Chan properly. Because it's what's called the direct school in Buddhism. It's the no BS school. You sit down and you just do it, but you've got to have some really hard cultivation bark on you to pull it off. And if you can, then you can go straight to enlightenment. But because of that, it's the most difficult. And Pure Land for Westerners is probably the better school because it's something we can do with our bodies, mouths, and minds while we're cultivating. So you can recite and bow. That keeps you busy. So you don't have a lot of time to false think about everything in the world because you have to pay attention to when to bow. You got to pay attention to who you're bowing to, and you have to pay attention to which Buddha you're reciting, especially if you're doing multiple. If you're doing like the 10,000 Buddha repentance, for instance, you have to pay attention to each Buddha. So you guys, what's the next one? Okay. So it keeps you busy. It doesn't give you a lot of time to do a lot of mind-wandering, false thinking. Chan, however, you're just sitting there. It's real easy to get lost in thought. Bye-bye. Oh, where are you? Oh, I'm a couple of days ago. Oh, I'm thinking about the future. Hello. The sit's over. You just wasted another hour. But so bowing is very good for that, and it also keeps your chi proper because you're bowing. You're using a kind of a yoga. It's kind of a form of or Tai Chi. It's a form of Tai Chi or yoga when you're bowing. You do it properly. So it keeps all your energy, all your focus and everything's lined up. So bowing is very good, and that's part of the Pure Land school. It's probably the essence of the Pure Land school. It's bowing Buddha, bowing and reciting.
What people of our generation, what practices we need to be doing that aren't widely practiced now? Is there something that we're missing, something we could be doing more of?
You mean in cultivating?
Yeah.
Like bowing, reciting, meditating, that kind of thing? Well, what happens is everybody tends to go to what's their kind of thing, their proclivity, what they're best suited towards. Most of our people that came in the days that the early days of Gold Mountain, most of our people were through the schools. They'd study, take on Buddhist studies in school, become really interested in it, And then they get through the grapevine, they hear about Shifu. They want to go study under a real teacher. And they came in through that door. My door was completely different, so I can't relate to it very well. But most of them did that. Then there's some that come in other ways. So everybody has a different kind of practice that they prefer. Now let's face it. I mean, some people want to do, like Ron. He just loves the teaching school. He's an intellectual. He's got 2 PhDs, you know, and he's really smart, and he really likes that Dharma door of smartness. You know, he wants to study smart. The smart approach, the philosophical approach to Buddha Dharma, basically. The teaching school, it's called, where you just go down and you just take apart a sutra. I mean, you really get into it. Or you'll study the, you know, Avatamsaka, or you'll study the Sharangama and get deep into what the Buddha was talking about. The end of, you know, that's one of the favorite schools of most students that I've seen, Western students that come. Then there's a few that are more of the physical type, like come through, they want to do just Chan. They don't want to get through all this other stuff. They don't want to do any kind of ceremonial stuff. They just want to do pure Chan, wake up, become enlightened. Like me, that's my approach. So I just want to get to the meat of it. Thank you very much. But other people, there's other people who are really into doing magic and stuff. They really love that stuff. They like all the secret school Tibetan kind of approach to Buddhism, where you have all this magic, you know, this ability to do mudras and mantras, and all these secret mantras, and it'll do all this kind of black magic kind of thing. It's called the secret school. And it's just, that school has nothing to do, it's just to draw people in, to really cultivate. You know, it's just an expedient. All these schools are. You know, then there's the precept school. Precept school is an unusual school because that's for the Puritans, people with the Puritan nature. They say, I'm going to be very, very pure in my approach to the Buddha Dharma. I'm going to be beyond being a goody two-shoes. I'm going to be extremely good. It's like a Bible thumper. I mean, you're just going in big time to study just the rules. It's a viable school. You can actually become enlightened just studying the precept school, because that's the foundation of your practice. Otherwise, you might get some success if you don't follow the precepts or don't even pay attention to them very much. But what will happen is it'll be very fleeting because you don't have any foundation for that to stay. So if you attain some kind of samadhi or some kind of, like even if you open up your 5 eyes, you see, open up your heavenly eye, you see all kinds of stuff, or you're able to leave your body, start traveling around, all that stuff will just close back down again because you don't have a solid foundation in the precepts. But there are some people who are just into precepts. You know, there's not that many of them today, but they still, it's a viable school, and it's where you just don't do anything but focus on and study the precepts purely and practice them purely to an nth degree. I mean, really. And if you're really a precept, somebody who really follows the precepts, if you're really doing it right, nobody knows you're doing it. That's a real precept follower. Not somebody who says, look at me, I'm better than you because I'm so pure and good. I say, get out of my face. No, those kind of people, they're not going anywhere. But people who are really precept followers and cultivators of the precept school, you'd hardly even know it. You wouldn't even know it. Only the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas would know it. Or if you had your wisdom open, you'd know it. But otherwise, you wouldn't know it. What's the other one? There's the Chan school, there's the teaching school, there's the secret school, the precept school. I'm missing one. There's one more, the 5 schools. Which one did I miss? Oh, Pure Land School. Did I mention?
Yeah.
The Pure Land. Which is basically the Christian school. It's kind of like a Christian school. It's got a lot of prayer in it. It's got, and it's, strangely enough, it's really the easiest school to accomplish something with, unbelievably. Because you just say, okay, I don't want all this detail. I'm not an intellectual. I just want to recite the Buddha's name and get born in his heaven. End of story. Don't bother me with the rest of the stuff. So, okay.
How do you know your school? Is it by your proclivities? Is it by what you're drawn
You
to?
probably already have your school. You know, each of you already figured that out. You know. It doesn't mean that you don't practice the other ones. That's the first thing I learned with the habits. We practice all of them every day, actually. If you go to any of our way places, you pretty much practice all 5 schools during the day, because you do the Shurangama mantra. That's a secret school, believe it or not. And like the DRBU, that's another. All mantras are a secret school. That's from the secret school. So that's a secret school. So you actually practice, you know, and then there's a priest. So you're doing all the schools. And the Shifu always told us, there's no such thing as schools anyway. People they're just attached to things. You know, when the Buddha's in the world, what school was he? Huh? What school did he set up? It's just Buddha Dharma.
So it's easy to become, slightly arrogant about one's practice, or kind of competitive in that. And so I can see that.
I don't understand how you'd be competitive. You mean like saying, look, I can sit longer than you, or I haven't moved my legs or something?
Yeah.
Is that way? That kind of stuff?
Memorize more things
There are
than
people who are like that. Yeah, we've had, like, I'm a lousy sitter. I like Chan the most, and I'm a crappy sitter.
No.
But there's people who can sit without budging. The Shifu used to tell us during the Chans, if you can sit and not move, then you don't have to do the walks. Because what people don't like during the big Chan sessions is they don't like their legs hurting, but they don't like to walk for 20 minutes. You know, it's tiresome. And you've been sitting for an hour, and now you got to walk for 20 minutes, and then you got to run. And you say, oh, I just want to go to sleep. No, you got to get up and walk. So he says, well, those people who can sit without moving and not and stay in the lotus, full lotus, they don't have to do the walks, but they can't move. They have to stay at full lotus, and they have to stay awake. If you can do that, then you don't have to do the walks. You know. And there was competitiveness to do that from a couple of people. Me, I've never been into that, because I'm completely attached to waking up. I don't care who beats me. You want to be number one? Go ahead. Show me how to do it. You can be my teacher. That's the attitude we're supposed to have. You know, we're the opposite. In Buddhism, it's the opposite. Oh, you're better than I am. Good. Oh, you'll be my new teacher. That's how you're supposed to be. That you got to kill yourself. In other words, you got to kill your ego. You just smash it. It's your enemy. It's not your friend. Your I, me. We used to call it your Mount Sumeru self, which means that you have a self so big it's as big as a mountain. It's a gigantic mountain. And so the competitive is what is that? It's view of self. You know, I'm big, I'm number one, and I'm better than you at cultivating. Nah. I can bow longer, I can sit longer. Nee. You're not as good as I am. Well, guess what? You're going to be last in line. You're going to be the last one to wake up if you cling on to that. Because this is not a competition to see who can wake up first, or who can do the most quietest sit, or perfect sit. Or if you do, you're going down the wrong road. You know, you're not helping yourself any, and nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're the best sitter. Not affecting them any.
They're worried about their
If you're the best sitter and made me a better sitter, then okay, I'll follow you. Or if you're a better bower and okay, I'll follow you. But it's just something nobody pays attention to. Or I'm a better intellectual. Yeah, I understand that I can memorize this faster than you can. If you're showing other people how smart you are, then you have a problem. You know, if you're saying, you have a problem because you're obstructing your own Buddha nature when you do that. You're building up yourself, your false self, and you're covering up your real self. So you're creating a sin. That's the real Buddhist sin right there. And what you really want is let go of your Buddha. Your Buddha nature is awesome. I mean, it's just unbelievably, it beats out all this other stuff by leaps and bounds. So why release it? Let it be what it really is. You know? But Shiva was just very hard on our egos. Let's put it that way. I mean, he was a very gentle teacher. He'd never beat us or anything like that. You know, he'd never hit us or beat us. He'd scold us a lot, but he would never ever do anything physical. But boy, did he get under your skin. big time. He was a master at that. He knew exactly what your hang-ups were. He knew exactly what you were attached to, and he went right after it. And it would come out in multiplicities of ways. Don't ever try to save face. We're sure you'll never win that game. He's going to make you lose face big time. You have no sense of pride around him. He's going to get that torn out of you real fast. And the smarter you are and the more A-type personality you are, the harder it is on you. A lot of people couldn't take it, that kind of teaching, because for some reason when you have a big self, it's really hard to get through it. You know, I'm number one. To actually see how big that is, it's pretty devastating to you to see that and break through it. So, but it doesn't exist, so why support something that doesn't exist? It just causes you suffering. But that's all part of the cultivation, you know, everybody learns from that stuff. Buddhism, it's never like, oh, I've lost my face, I have no pride left, they got up my trip, everybody sees what I'm all about, I'm going to leave, I can't take it anymore. What are you going to leave for? You're still got a Buddha nature. You need to break through to it. It's like you've fallen, like you're trying to do something, a really hard exercise, like you're a gymnast. You're trying to do a real fancy gymnast thing. And you keep failing at it, and you fall on the mats, and you're all beat up and bruised up. Well, in Buddhism, you just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, try again. Keep going at it. Just keep cultivating. You're not going to be successful the first time? Fine. You're not going to be successful the 10,000th time? Fine. No problem. Keep working at it. Because you're planting seeds that are incredible. And they're going to sprout. Sooner or later, when you're good and ready, you're going to wake up. And it's a funny thing, too. Only you know when that's going to be, deep down. It's not going to be somebody else. It's not going to be some deity or God or even a bodhisattva. Because if they could, they would. If they could just come down and wake us all up, they do it in a heartbeat. They can't. It's got to be you. And only you are the person who's going to finally get tired of living under this phony world and say, enough, enough. It's like the Buddha said, enough. I'm staying under this tree until I wake up. Enough of this nonsense. No more ascetic practices. No more this, no more that. I'm waking up. I ain't moving till I wake up from this tree. And because he had this profound thought, that's the end of it right here. They can drag my corpse away from here, but I ain't leaving until I wake up. And because he did that, he woke up. And we're all the same way. Sooner or later we'll find our breaking point. We say, I just don't want to put up with this nonsense anymore. I'm done. I'm going to break through. Other people, they're not tired of it yet. It's just they want to play games with themselves for a few more lives. Let me have a few more lives of goofing around. Okay, up to you. It's like Shifu always say, up to you.
I wonder if you have anything to say about keeping up some determination, vigor, resolve.
We're all in a kind of monastery. The problem with being in the regular outside monasteries, out in the regular world, is that it's full of distractions. I mean, it's chock. Now it's chock full of it. It's nothing but distractions. That's all it is. It's a constant distractions, and that's what is the difficult part of being out there. That's the real essence of it. You get just about everything imaginable to distract you. From your cell phone on up, everybody now are in the cloud, right? They're all on social media, this and that. It's their whole life. People even walk down the streets now without even looking where they're going. They just got their phone in their face. They're bumping into things and getting run over by cars and all kinds of stuff. And that's the problem with that, because that distraction is just keeping you from focusing on cultivating. you know, you can't cultivate that way. You can't build up your mindfulness if you're going to be in the throes of all kinds of distractions. And that's the key issue. So always try to find a quiet place for yourself, even if you can't do it. You know, if you require for your studies or for your job or whatever, try your best during those times. But always try to find a quiet space, either in your home or your apartment or wherever you live, where you have a place to sit and to decompress, you know, every day, because you know you're in the regular world, and you're not in a monastery. So that's the reasons for monasteries. I mean, really. Now, once you, like a sage, will be able to go into those kind of environments and not have them turn. He won't be turned by them. He'll have this, what's called his samadhi power going. But we don't have that. We don't have that samadhi power. So how do we get it? You just keep working on it when you can. Find a spot, find a time, set it aside, and say, this is my quiet time. This is my special time. This is my cultivation time. And then during the day when you're working, start building on being mindful of whatever you're working on. Don't try to, you know, not work on something when you need to work on something. Like if you're in school, you got to study what you need to study. Just try to bring yourself into the present as much as possible. Keep working on that. That's a form of cultivation. You know, use every trick in the book to bring yourself into the present and try to stay away from thinking about tomorrow and yesterday. And you just keep working that. It starts to give you it'll start giving you some results. Also, you become very effective at what you're doing because you're here. You're focused on it. You're there. You're not daydreaming. You're there. You're dealing with the presence.
There is probably a large group of us that is kind of in that somewhat beginning to intermediate stage, and maybe we have our toes in the water, but we're wondering like how deep to go and how fast and where it's safe to swim and where it isn't, and we're trying to find our way.
People set their own pace. You know, it's about pacing yourself. You see, okay, am I ready for this now? Like I lived at Gold Mountain from when I moved in till I think I finally took refuge in '73. I think I was the longest person to be around Sherpa that long and not take refuge. That's how slow I am. So everybody has their own pace, and so the big thing to be aware of is don't let others pressure you, or don't feel pressured by other outside influences concerning this matter. This is between you, yourself, the Buddhas, and the Bodhisattvas. This has nothing to do with anybody else. It's none of their business. And when you're good and ready, you'll be good and ready. When you're not good and ready, or you're not sure you're good and ready, just, you know, do it. You want to dig yourself in a little deeper, fine. Do a session, you know, do a full session. Do a 28-day repentance ceremony. They're very effective. Or do a chan, you know, in the winter. Or say, okay, this year I'm going to do, you know, this and that. Let's see if I can do that. And do I want to go further or not? You know, because when you do really, even if you don't kai wu, most people don't wake up, don't have a great enlightenment, you're still going to get all kind of benefit out of a long, especially a big chan or a big recitation or bowing session. You'll start feeling tingly all over you, very light, light and easy. If you do it, if you really work hard, you'll start getting light and easy. You'll feel almost light on your toes when you walk near the, you know, usually that happens with me about halfway to 3/4 of the way into the session. And, you know, things are starting to tingle. Things are starting to happen. You're starting to rattle your true nature awake. And so it's always up to you. Just remember, it's always up to you to do that kind of stuff. And you shouldn't be influenced by somebody telling you should do it. They don't know anything. What are they telling you to do? Something? Unless it's a true knowing advisor, if like if Shifu told you, then you better pay attention. But somebody else doesn't. What do they know? They don't know anything. If I told you, oh, you should do this and that practice, you could just throw that out of your backpack. What does he know? He don't know nothing. So, because everybody's different. Everybody has a different cultivation and a different trigger too. There's going to be something that'll trigger you awake someday, and it's going to be totally different than everybody else. Like Shulao, he had that cup of tea poured on him. That woke him. That was his trigger. That was the straw. Broke the camel's back. That was it. Everybody's different. Everybody will have another event or something very intimate that has to do with them and their causes and conditions that'll make them wake up to their situation.